They are Kurds, and they live throughout the Middle East, and they number well over 30 million people, and they are dying by the thousands. I'm up front tonight trying to save at least 1,000 lives a day. That's what one group of American doctors is convinced we must be doing and could be doing for the Kurdish people who are fleeing their homes and death in Iraq. Our guest is Dr. Asfandiar Shukri. He is a Kurdish-American physician who works in northwest Detroit at a trauma center. Dr. Shukri just returned from 4 days visiting the refugee camps along the Turkish-Iraqi border, and I talked to him from Washington, D.C., where he today met with officials at the White House on the crisis. We talked to Dr. Shukri by way of the Newstar 7 satellite. Dr. Shukri, thank you so much for being with us this afternoon. I know that you just returned from Turkey after having spent 8 days there with 3 other doctors. Can you give us some idea as to how many Kurds are dying a day based on what you were able to observe?
Well, we went to the best camp, which we call a showcase camp in the entire border region. They call it Chukurcha. And this camp is supposed to be one of the best camps. The data we gathered from that camp, from the caretaker, from the mosque, which the caretaker buries does the burial, we found out that about 1,000 people dies from the entire region of
now,
those.
are they dying from exposure, from starvation, or are they dying because of Saddam Hussein and his soldiers and his helicopters and his weapons? I mean,
no, really,
are they also being killed by Saddam Hussein's army?
Well, the people in the camps, they are dying from exposure, lacks of proper food, water, and dehydration. We did not see any evidence of shelling or bombarding or any evidence of...
Well, there's a great number of Turks or Kurds in that part of the area. There are some 17 million Kurds living in Turkey alone, approximately 5 million Kurds who live in Iraq, and another 7 million who live in Iran. What is going to happen to all these people?
Well, really, I do not know what's going to happen. It's a big international problem that about 25 to 30 million people are without any recognition of even civil rights.
Are the Kurds, is it fair to say, are the Kurds as bad off as the Palestinians?
Well, I cannot compare that, but the Kurds so far, they have never done any terrorist activity. They never hijacked a plane, and they have never done anything in the cities which hurt any civilians so far.
Senator Carl Levin of the state of Michigan told me on the upfront segment about 10 days ago that George Bush and the United States must intervene in some way because this is nothing more, nothing less than genocide. Do you agree?
I really agree with that. I think it is a genocide, and it is a widespread genocide.
Cannot the Kurds who live in Turkey, the Kurds who live in Iran, the Kurds who live in Iraq, numbering some 30 millions, is there any way that they can organize themselves and create their own Kurdish land, their own nation?
I think that is not the aim of the Kurds right now. The Kurds in Iraq especially, which at the topic of our discussion, right now they are exposed to a big genocide and a massacre, both from deportation or displacement from their homeland to the very severe weather condition, and 2, from Saddam Hussein, which they fled for their life.
They apparently have never fully assimilated or been assimilated into either Turkey, Iran, or Iraq. Why is that?
Because the Kurds are not Arab, they are not Semitic, with all respect to the Semitic race, and they are Indo-European. They are descendant of Medes. So they have a different culture, they have different geography and different history. That's why, and they kept their culture to themselves. That's why they were not assimilated with the Turks, nor Iranian, nor the Arab.
And is it fair to say they do not want to be?
I think in every culture, the human instinct mandate that you recognize and continue to protect your culture.
Dr. Shukri, you were at the White House earlier today, am I correct?
That's true.
With whom did you talk? How high up in the Georgia administration did you get?
Well, we talked to Assistant Director for Refugee Program, which coordinates the whole relief program for the refugees.
Well, what did you people ask George Bush and his people to do?
Well, we asked, first of all, that an emergency support, both food-wise and medical attention and shelter, must be done very, very quickly to avoid 1,000 deaths a day, which are preventable deaths. People dying from diarrhea because of lack of food, because of lack of water, and because of lack of sanitation and lack of shelter.
Do you think the Kurds are being killed and dying and are fleeing because they felt that George Bush urged them to overthrow Saddam Hussein, and when they tried, he started killing them?
Well, the general consensus in the camp, they thought that the radio of Free Iraq, which was broadcasting at the time of the war against Iraq from Saudi Arabia, encouraged the Kurd. That's the speculation I got from the people I talked to in the camp. That was an encouragement. They understood that United States will help them in their uprising and to get rid of Saddam Hussein and to establish a better life for their people.
Does your gut tell you, Dr. Shukri, that Saddam Hussein's days of power and maybe life are short?
Well, I surely hope so, and I think it is.
You agree with Barbara Bush, then? He should be hanged.
I think he should be tried as war criminal, and whatever comes out from the judgment, it should be taken care of.
Dr. Shukri, thank you very much. I know you've had a very long trip and a busy trip, and I'm sure it was very painful for you. Thank you for your being here and your graciousness.
Well, thank you very much.
When you get back in town, get in contact with us at General
I will do that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Doctor.
Yeah.
Well, as we indicated during the interview, you remember the upfront we did with Carl Levin, I don't know, what was that, 10 days ago, I guess, Robbie, something like that. And he wrote the letter to Bush saying, look, we got to do something. This is genocide. And I was just handed this note here that George Bush is going to announce some kind of a massive new aid program for that Kurdish situation, Turkey, Iraq, Iran.